Hello everyone, welcome to commerce classes. Now in case of liquidation of companies, the second statement that we are required to prepare is liquidator's statement of accounts, or it is also called liquidator's final statement of accounts. Like as we know that when a company goes into liquidation, a liquidator is appointed by the company or by the tribunal to take care of the liquidation proceedings. So at that time, company prepares its statement of affairs, which shows estimated values of assets and liabilities to be settled. After that, liquidator takes over the charge of the company's liquidation proceedings, and then he does two main things. Number one, he is to realize the amounts, so that is shown as a receipt, amounts realized by the liquidator. Out of the amounts that it is getting, liquidator is to make payments for the liabilities. So the second component of liquidator's statement of accounts is payment of various liabilities. So just remember, you have amounts realized, number one the receipts, number two the payments. Now when we make that statement, then our receipts and payments should be in the given order. Now when we look at the receipts, now from where a company gets money to pay off its liabilities if a company is to be liquidated. So just remember, when a company is to be sold off or liquidated, then from where will it be getting money? Think of a company, give a pause and think of certain ways where company can get the money. Number one, company is having assets. Now some of the assets are free assets, and some assets are given as security. Okay, assets pledged as security. So these are the two type of assets. So number one, the company will be getting money from these assets. Now free assets will certainly include cash, bank. So liquidator will take charge of cash. He will be handed over the charge of bank. So he will be having all the bank statements, checkbooks, etc. Then you have certain assets from where you need to recover money by making calls, etc. So he will be taking all the steps to recover money from these assets. Then you have other assets like land and building, plant and machinery, etc., which are to be sold off. So he will be taking necessary steps to sell off these assets to get the appropriate price. Then comes the assets given as securities. Now assets which are given as securities, normally liquidator is having the charge of these assets as well. What he is supposed to do is that he is to sell off these assets and pay money to the liability holders, secured liability holders, or we call them secured creditors. In case of liquidation, all liability holders are called creditors. Some are secured, some are unsecured, some are preferential, etc. So to the unsecured creditors, the payment will come later on, but for the secured creditors, the payment is made directly from the security that they were having. So the asset is sold off and the money is recovered by the liquidator, and then the payment is made to the liability holders and remaining balance is left as a surplus. So in case of the assets given as security, you do not show the full receipt because you have certain secured liability against that. So you pay off that liability and only the surplus amount is received by the or held by the liquidator for payment purposes. Sometimes the work of realization of the asset is also taken up by the liability holders. Secured liability holders may say that we will take up the asset, we will realize the asset, and the balance surplus will be paid to the company. But this fact has to be given to us in the question. But whatever be the case, whether creditors realize the money or the liquidator realizes the money from the assets given as security, only surplus amount will appear in the final statement. Now, after selling off the assets, who else can pay? Now, in case of sole proprietorship or in partnership, we have seen that the capital holders, that is the owners, which in this case are shareholders, they are to pay the money. Now, here also we ask them to bring the money. They are referred as contributories. So, the company will ask the contributories to make payments. There are two lists of contributories as we have done earlier while doing the basic concepts, but the companies are limited by the shares. So you cannot ask the contributories to bring all the amount. So the list A shareholders are the existing shareholders. They can be asked by the company, number one, to pay the arrears. So if someone hasn't paid any call money, then they can be called upon to pay the arrears. Secondly, they can be called upon to pay the uncalled monies if the company needs. Now herein the company will be calling up the remaining amount or not, that you will have to see. Like if a company is having say 10,000 shares of 80 rupees each and 20 rupees is uncalled as yet. Now that 20 rupees of final call can be made by the company to pay to the liability holders, because liability holders have a first claim over the company. So uncalled money can be called by the company, and herein in the practical questions you will have to take the decision whether the money is to be called or not. So what we do is we make the parallel working for receipts and payments, and if you find that the available money till now, that is number 1, number 2 and the arrears, if these are not sufficient to pay external liabilities, remember external liabilities, then the uncalled money can be called up by the company. So you will have to use your best judgment to find out whether the company is in a position to pay the liability holders up to this stage or not. If you think that the liabilities are not being paid, we cannot pay the amount to the liability holders, then you can call up the money, but then again the limit is uncalled money. But how much will be called, that will depend upon the liabilities required to be paid. So suppose you are having say available money up to this stage. Okay, up to this stage if you have money available say 1,20,000, all right, your capital is 10,000 shares of 100 rupees each, 80 called. It means that 20 rupees can be called even now. So you have an option of calling up 20 rupees per share on 10,000 shares, that is 2 lakh, but you don't need that. You will have to see how much do we need to pay to the external liability holders. Now in case you have external liabilities to the tune of say 80,000, you can pay, so there is no need to call up the money. If you have external liabilities of say 120, still it is done. You don't need to call up the money. If your liabilities are say 2 lakh, now how much do you need? Your money is 1,20,000, your liabilities, external liabilities are 2 lakh. You need 80,000 more. Okay, so your requirement is 80,000, which means on 10,000 shares you don't need to call up full 20 rupees. You need only 80,000, so you will call up only 8 rupees. Your requirement in the present case, in the first two cases there was no need. In the present case your requirement is 80,000 rupees. So you will call up 8 rupees per share. That will be sufficient for your needs. Now take another case. Suppose your liabilities are say 3,50,000. Now your money is 120, your liabilities are 3,50,000, you need further 2,30,000, but you cannot call up. The maximum amount that you can get is 2 lakh. So you will be calling up only 20 rupees per share, and that will be the case. So you will be paying only partially to the liability holders. So 30,000 rupees of liabilities will still be left as unpaid. Nothing can be done. This is the way the company works. So we will have to make a call that whether the company should call up the uncalled monies or not, and in case it is to be called, then how much should be called. Should we call the full amount or should we call only a part of that? So what we do is that while solving a practical question, we make parallel working notes. One for the receipts, one for the payments, and then we can find out that do we need money or not. If we need money, then only up to the requirement the money can be called, and this is the maximum limit, uncalled money. You cannot ask your shareholders to bring more money because company needs it to pay to the to the liability holders, right? So this is regarding list A. Now that is the end of list A. Now there we have a contributories list B also. In case you want to know the details of list A and B, please go back to the initial videos. Now in the list B are those shareholders who left the company, that is who ceased to be the shareholders of the company within 1 year prior to the date of liquidation. So right on this date, if a company is going into liquidation, then within the last 1 year, whosoever has left the company, whosoever has sold his holdings or ceased to be the shareholder of the company, they fall under list B. Now list B contributories can also be called up to pay to the company in case the money is needed. So you may wonder that how can they be called? This is the law, so as per rule they can be called, but there is a restriction. Restriction is that they can be called up to pay the amount only when the contributories of list A haven't been able to pay the money. That means if someone from list A has become bankrupt or he cannot pay his amount of arrears or called up money, then list B contributories can be asked to pay for the same. So it is not a umbrella term that they will be asked to pay the remaining balance. They will be asked to pay the amount only when the original shareholders are not able to pay the amount. Secondly, they cannot be called up to pay the liabilities which have been incurred after they left the company. So if a person sold his shares in June and in July company took some loan or some creditors were there in July, then to pay to those liabilities they cannot be called up. So these are very complex issues because you will have to see who are the shareholders and who are the shareholders at a given point of time and the liabilities, their relevant dates when these were incurred. So we don't need to go into that much of detail for your BCom honors. So for us, list B contributories will be making payment only when our question provides us. Although for these two cases, we will have to take up the call, whether to call up this money, and arrears will always be received unless otherwise given. But for this, you will have to take the call as per the needs. For list B, we will be provided the information. Now question arises, what is this now? Because we have already covered everyone. Now the fourth point is when a company is allowed to do the business during the tenure or timing of the liquidation. Like liquidation usually serves as a notice for closing of business activities and trade. However, in some cases, the court may allow a company to continue its operations if it is necessary to realize assets profitably. So in that case, a company will be continuing with the business. So your trading receipts, so any cash receipt from trade and your trading payments, the net of the two will be coming under the last category. So from your business operations, if you are continuing, you will be getting cash also. Now one more thing here, if some cost is associated with realization of the assets, then that has to be deducted on the receipt side only. So you have different types of cost of liquidation. Some are associated with the assets and some are cost in general. Like you are to give a notice in the newspaper regarding the liquidation of company. So that is a general cost. But when you sell off the asset, you meet up some person and maybe for debtors say you employ a debt collection agency to recover the money. So that cost, the commission paid to debt collection agency will be deducted from the amounts here. So this is what we are to remember regarding the receipts. We are to show the net receipts. So in the final statement on the receipt side, we will be having 4 receipts. Now coming to the payments. Now in case of payments, there are 2 things to remember. Number 1 is that payments are to be made in a specific order, right? So for payments, we know that we are to pay to whom first. First of all, secured liabilities are paid, but we know that they are paid out of the surplus, out of the amounts realized from the assets, and surplus is given to the company. So payment is there, but we don't show it. Then after the secured liabilities, the next thing that we are to do here is liquidation expenses and liquidators remuneration. So the liquidators remuneration and his expenses have a overall priority over all the remaining things. Then you have preferential creditors. So in the payment you have liquidation cost, then you have preferential creditors, then you have liabilities having floating charge over the assets, like debentures. In general, debentures have floating charge unless otherwise given. Then unsecured creditors. Preferential creditors also, remember, they are unsecured. They don't have any security. Like debentures are having floating charge over all the assets, so they have some security, but creditors here are not having security, but they are given preference as per law, because this includes, number one, the taxes payable to the government or certain costs which are being incurred for the some kind of inquiry or investigation going on relating to company, and it includes the payments to the employees, their salaries, their holiday costs, or their benefits like retirement benefits like pension, provident fund, etc. So they are given preference over all other liabilities, but they are a part of unsecured liabilities. After payment of unsecured liabilities, our external liabilities are over. So if anything is left, it is payment or paid to the contributories. Now to the contributories, again remember, we pay first of all to the preference shareholders, right? Then we pay to the equity shareholders. Now in case you have some dividend being payable, then where will it qualify? Now usually the dividends qualify under unsecured liabilities. So if a company is having unclaimed dividend or dividend payable, then it will be paid along with the unsecured liabilities. Now sometimes we have some dividends payable on cumulative preference shares. That is, you have cumulative dividend on preference shares which is yet to be paid. Suppose company was not in a position to pay dividend, or company did not pay dividend for the last 2 years. Preference shareholders have a preferential right, right? But their preferential right arises only when the company decides to pay dividend to equity shareholders. So if in the last 2 years company hasn't paid dividend to equity shareholders, preference dividend will also not be paid, because there is a preferential right, not the absolute right. But now when the company is to be liquidated, then the preference shareholders will be paid their dividend of last 2 years, but that dividend will come under third category. So when you pay to the contributories, there first of all capitals have to be paid, and then if any balance is left, it is paid to the preference shareholders for their cumulative dividend. Finally, you have some surplus left. Now this surplus normally belongs to equity shareholders. However, in case your preference shares are participating, then as per the norms, participating preference shares shall have to be paid. So these are all the payments that you are to make. Now up to this stage, the payments are necessary. Herein, it is whatever is left, then it is used to pay to the contributories. Now herein we need to remember one more thing, like we studied that we have certain overriding preferential payments and pari passu clause. So in case you have some workman's dues, don't forget to record workman's dues along with the payment of secured liabilities. So this is pari passu clause. They are at the same footage along with the secured liabilities. So out of the security money, the assets that you have given as a security, out of the money that you realize on those assets, you are to pay to workman's dues along with the secured liabilities. I have explained this in the previous videos. So just go back and have a look there. So whenever workmen's are due, their due amounts are to be paid along with the secured liability out of the assets given as security. If the asset is having sufficient funding, sufficient amount, you will pay them both. If the amount is not sufficient, then it is paid in part to workmen's, part to secured liabilities. And if any amount is left due to pari passu clause herein, suppose your secured liabilities were 1 lakh and workmen's due were 20,000. If 120 is the amount realized from such assets, you can pay them in full. If suppose you realized only say 84,000, so 84,000 will be distributed in 20,000 and 1 lakh, right, in this ratio. So some amount will be left here as unpaid. Now the amount which is left as unpaid due to pari passu clause, it has a preference order here. It is called overriding preferential payments. Okay, so even before preferential creditors are being paid anything, the balance left here due to pari passu clause will come here. So it will be recorded and paid here before the payment. So this is the payment order, right? But when we come to the preparation of the final statement, then the payment order is not followed. Therein, the payments are recorded in 4 categories. Secured liabilities are paid out of the assets being realized. Workman's dues are also paid out of that. So they do not come in the statement. Rather, we just show the surplus in the receipts. So it doesn't come. Then you show number 1, liquidation expenses and liquidators remuneration. Then secondly, you are to show liabilities with the floating charge. Thirdly, you are to show all the payments to unsecured creditors, right? So these 3 will come here, and then 4th will be coming for the contributories. So your payment list includes only 4 components. 1 for liquidation, overall cost and expenses and remuneration. 2 for the secured creditors having floating charge. 3rd for all remaining unsecured creditors, because these are all unsecured now. Okay, if your secured asset could not cover the amount of liability, it is unsecured. So overriding preferential payments, preferential creditors, and your unsecured creditors by name. Okay, so they will be coming in the 3rd list. And then you show the payments to the contributories. So this is how we prepare our final statement. So your final statement will be looking like this. It will be in this form. Remember the order. You will have to learn it by heart. So I cannot give you any shortcut to record, to show the order or the payments order. You will have to learn it, right? So you have on the receipt side, it is the final statement of accounts. On this side, we have 4 components as I explained you. Free assets, surplus from securities, money received from contributories, and any kind of trading receipts or payments subject to the expenses on the realization of the assets. Okay, so you have number 1 assets realized, free assets, number 2 surplus, number 3 from the contributories, any amount, whether it is uncalled or amount received for final call or the recovery from B list contributories, everything comes under number 3. Number 4 is for your trading amounts, trading receipts less payments, and any expenses on realization, as I explained you, it has to be deducted from this side. So in total we deduct it. It shows our net realization or the net receipt. So this is receipt account side, right? Then you have the payments. Again, payments are coming under 4 categories. Number 1, liquidation, but it is shown as separate. Then 3 components are given for liabilities. Number 1, the creditors with floating charge, debentures as well as their interest, plus any other liability having floating charge. Number 2, unsecured creditors. So whether it is a overriding preferential payment or unsecured creditors or unsecured part of secured liability or unclaimed dividends, it will all qualify here. Then return to contributories, that is to the preference shareholders and to the equity shareholders as per the balances left. So when we are to prepare this statement, we cannot prepare this statement directly because it involves information where we need to make the decisions. Like when we are to decide whether the contributories should be asked to pay final call or not. So this is a decision that have to be made. Secondly, while recording this, we need to know the payments. Payments are made in certain different order, but payments are recorded here in different order. Here just you show 3 types of payments. And sometimes liquidators remuneration is also based on payments. So what we can do is that before we prepare this final statement, we must prepare a preliminary statement. Some kind of working note is prepared for taking up all the amounts. So how do we prepare that working note? We just make it like this. On one side we have amounts realized. Of course we won't be writing all the amounts right at one go because some are based on our decisions. So cash and bank can be taken. So your free assets in all, number 1 is your free assets, number 2 is surplus, that can also be recorded, Number 3 is contributories. Recovery of final call, calls in arrear will be recorded, but final call shall have to be decided. So when we are making this list, we will leave this amount initially. Then you have recovery from contributories. B list is given only when the question says so. So only final call is to be decided. So for this amount will be left here. Then you have trading receipts less payments or expenses. If you have any, they will be deducted. So we have a rough amount here. Don't total it up. So even rough statement also has some rough calculations. So just keep it as it is, put a question mark here or just leave the space. Now come to the liability side. You have unsecured liabilities. Now their amount payable is nil because we are to pay them out of the security being given. And if any uncovered part is there, it will go with the unsecured creditors. So unsecured part will come here. Then you have liquidation costs. You can total up the amount. Then you have preferential creditors. Then you have creditors with the floating charge. Then you have unsecured creditors, all the categories. Then you have the contributories, which includes their capitals, number 1, number 2, cumulative dividend arrears of preference shares, and then the surplus to be given to equity shareholders or as per the decided ratio of nominal capital. Like in the equity shares also, you may have 2 or 3 categories. You have some equity shares of 100 rupees each, some of 10 rupees each. So who will be given the surplus? So surplus is divided in their ratio of the nominal capitals. So but these are going to be very complex sums right now, as this chapter is new in the course. So we won't be expecting so many difficult issues being involved. Right, so right now your focus will be on the order of the payment and on the receipts, of course including final call. Now when we write up the amounts here, we will make one more column here for the cash availability, like the cash which is available here. So you can write here cash availability and you can roughly make the calculation that out of this available cash we will pay this liability in the order and we are left with this. Then we pay preferential creditors in order and then out of this balance we pay this, we are left with the remaining balance. So keep on deducting the amounts. You pay this out of this balance, you are left with some balance. Then you are to pay these. Okay, so the balance will come here. Now if at any point you find that up to this level, if we are not able to pay the liabilities, then you are to decide about the final call. So herein, if you think that the amount is paid in full, then final call won't be made. But if you find that herein you have some deficiency, you do not have cash. Suppose cash available is 1,50,000 here, payment coming here is 2 lakh. You need 50,000 more. So for 50,000 rupees, final call will be made and then the amount will be summed up. So even this rough work or working note will also be prepared in 2 stages. Of course, we will not be making 2 statements, but we will do the calculations side by side. So we'll take up some practical questions to understand how this is done. So I hope the procedure is clear, that in case of liquidators statement of accounts, we are to show the receipts and the payments. Payments have certain order, but when it comes to the account, the payments are to be shown in 3 categories. So we need to prepare the preliminary statement. So I hope this is clear. Now revise this, and in the next video we will take up some practical question to understand this. Thank you.